Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Julie Mann. I'm also known as the Habit Fixer, and I really enjoy working with women over 50 who want to regain their mojo and age well. And I'm so delighted because today I'm joined by a guest that I've had on before, Caleb Nelson. Hi, Caleb.
Hello, my dear. Super happy to be back hanging with you.
So good to see you. So, for those of you that haven't yet met Caleb, he has an amazing podcast called Naked Sunday. I've been a guest, and it's really well worth listening to. But the other thing that Caleb does is he transforms burnt out, heart centered entrepreneurs into empowered leaders. Loving the sound of that. And I know today, Caleb, you're going to talk all about burnout, aren't you? Habits to avoid burnout. Is that right?
Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about how to structure our life and how to organize our life in a way simply so that we can avoid the dreaded burnout that everybody seems to run into nowadays. Everybody seems to just get fried at some point and they're like, what do I do? So, yes, that's what we're going to
Yeah, I
focus on.
keep hearing that. Have you suffered burnout before?
Yes, in a few different ways. And I think it's a little sneakier than most people will ever give credit to or be aware of. And it shows up in a lot of different facets, both relationships, your health, and in your work. So the signs and symptoms are all around us. And sometimes if we don't pay attention to one area, well, it's going to bleed into the others before you know it. So this will be a fun way to help people with a little more preventative awareness, hopefully, and then be able to get themselves out of that if it is starting to creep its ugly head in there. So
Excellent. So, how about you go ahead?
so let's start off with what burnout is. When I look at this is your capacity to withstand your life's circumstances in a healthy and sustainable fashion. And the way I think about this is you have a cup, a mug, and you start pouring. Let's say we're going to pour in all our health practices. Okay, so you get maybe halfway up, like awesome, I did all my workouts, all my other things, all my different habits there. Then you're going to get to your work stuff. You're going to go, all right, well, I got to do sales. I got to do marketing. I got to lead my team. I got to do a lot of, I got to. So you're going to pour it, you're going to fill it all the way the rest of the top. And they're like, oh, wait, I got this thing called a family and friends and relationships that I also want to maintain in there. And then you're like, I got to still make up for that. And then you start pouring it. And all of a sudden, the cup is overflowing, and that overflowing, especially maybe you're drinking some hot tea because you're over in the UK. We're going to think about our cup of tea, and it might scald your hand, and that in some way, shape, or form is going to be injury, illness, friction in your marriage, friction in your friendships, your relationships, tension at work, even seeing like a lack of creativity in your what I consider your meaningful work, the things that inspired you to start your business, or the things that drive you towards your purpose. And that can be very sneaky. So more often than not, people just think about adding more, and more into their habits. This is, I think, one of the ugly sides of the growth mindset, or at least the narrow minded version of the growth mindset. I need to do more things. I need to do lots of stuff, and I need to put myself out there. And that's awesome. In fact, it's very important at a certain stage in your life. You got to get out there, you got to experiment, and you got to try some stuff. Where I'm speaking about is once people have moved into a state of abundance, you've acquired the job, or you've got some resources, you bought the house, you have the kids, you have the family, you're name your thing, you have a team. And what I've learned is that most people deeply struggle with this abundance because all they're used to that got them to this phase of life is doing more. They're just doing more. So, as I mentioned with that mug, they just pour more on top because that's what worked last time. And this leads to what I call the crash diet lifestyle. And with all crash diets, what do? You do a bunch of stuff really fast, all the things to reclaim whatever goal, short-term goal you thought it was. So somebody be like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks, or whatever the thing is, or I'm going to do a sales push, or I'm going to go on some big vacation with my wife to reclaim my marriage, not realizing that it's only putting a band-aid fix on the problem. And at the same time, you're actually neglecting all the other things in your life that you must sustain to maintain long-term success. Because if you start to sacrifice, let's say, things at work, well, all of a sudden you have financial instability. yikes, that's going to come and affect your home life. If you neglect your health, well, oh my God, it takes one health crisis for you to realize, ugh, things are going to like send our entire life up on its head. Or even just having things like brain fog, which has been the classic thing nowadays, where people just feel like they can't see the existential world 3 feet in front of them. They can't tap into that creative mind. And especially if you're an entrepreneur who relies on their mind to get them through their life, and especially they pride themselves on that. When you start to lose that little je ne sais quoi that made you special, that differentiated you from everybody else and got you through all those hard times, you start to lose a sense of identity. So what I really think about this is more your spiritual capacity, your ability to hold space for all the things in your life. So the way we're going to approach this is actually counterintuitive to what most people think. This is at a place in your life is that you actually need to learn how to take a step back without sacrificing the things that you need, without sacrificing the things you need to continue to move forward. As I mentioned before, the financial stability, the relationship, or the health. So I believe on our last one, we talked a little about minimum effective dosage, and that was more about how do you just start building some success in one area. But we're going to talk about more minimum effective dosage, about just setting the baseline for your life. So in this area, we're going to start talking more about time management. And this is the system or the vehicle, how you're going to house the habits that you're going to be basically implementing into your life. We need to take a step back, and we first need to define what are the minimum things that you need to do to maintain your current level of success. This is hard because most people, especially if you're a go, go, go type of energy, don't want to pause and clarify this really big, challenging question of what is enough? Most people are in that growth mindset of like, I want to shoot for the moon, I want all the stuff. But we start asking what is enough. This is a softer, more gentle question of, well, when do I stop pursuing certain types of abundance? Very difficult for a lot of different types of energies, especially somebody who's in a leadership position, and especially who wants to provide for everybody. So what you need to do is you need to look at these three core areas of your life. And I want you to look at it from the minimum amount of quality time or habits you must execute in those areas of your life. So for most people, especially since they're going to think about financial stability as the linchpin, especially in a leadership position, start thinking about what are the minimum things that you need to do every day or every week, every month to hit your quota. How many reach outs is it going to be? How many meetings do you need to have? And what are the end results of those things? You're going to start clarifying that. Put those things on your schedule, because now they have a time and they have a place. There's your first habit. Just give it a time and a place on your calendar, because if it doesn't, you're going to forget about it. Next, what we're going to look at, especially if you're physically feeling burnt out, I want to take a look at your relationships. So you need to think about what's home life. Home life to maintain a healthy, happy marriage, to keep the kids in order, all those things. What is it to make sure you feel like you're doing a quote unquote good job? It's going to require a little bit more nuance. One of the things I love to do here, I like to start treating my home like a business. So at work, what a lot of people do, they have their weekly meetings with their staff, something like that. Well, with my wife, what we do is I call it a State of the Union meeting, a little play on like the union of marriage. But this is our weekly check-in. We talk about things like our budget. We talk about our goals. We talk about the stressors of life that are coming up. What are the things we're planning for? It's an organizational time, more of a structured, let's call it masculine energy, more practical things, and a time and space. And this allows us the opportunity to say, hey, what's coming up? And more importantly, what does support look like? That way we do a little bit of housekeeping and we know that our relationship is on point there together. The checkpoint there is, in the beginning, you're going to be playing a little bit of catch up. You're kind of cleaning up the mess that you might have built up over time because you haven't checked in on what's important. What are your goals as a marriage, as a couple, as a family? You're going to have to do a little bit of that, much like you do in your business meetings. What's the goal for this quarter or for this year? At home, you're going to start creating a new united vision during those times. The other things you can do with your relationship is like, how many family dinners do we need to have? How many times do you need to have like a friend's night? Like for me, I have a boys' night every Wednesday. What's the amount of, if you have kids, how much quality time do you leave your kids? Is it like doing their homework or reading them stories before they go to bed, seeing their games? Get these things on your schedule. This is important. We first set these two couple things, and then now most importantly, like your body is the vehicle, because at the end of the day, that thing, that body of yours, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, is showing up in your marriage, your relationships, your friendships, and is showing up in your business. So now we do the same thing with our health. What are the minimum things you need to be doing? Do you need meditation? You need time for reflection, journaling, prayer, whatever it is for your mental, emotional, spiritual practice? Do you need, what do you need for your exercise or movement? Are you going for walks? How much of that? And then do you need some other type of fitness activities? Get those things on the schedule. This is all because time is a construct, and time is just your idea about how you're framing your life and managing all these things. Most people don't think about just getting the minimums on there. Now, what you're going to notice at this point, once you get all your minimums of like, how do I just do a good job at life on your schedule, you're going to go, I have a lot more time than I thought I needed, that I thought I had. That should be a massive relief for a lot of people, almost initially. They're like, whew, this feels really good. I have space between meetings. I have time for my family. I feel like I'm going to do a good job as a husband or wife or whatever. I feel like I'm going to be a good parent. I'm going to feel like my staff is taken care of. And all of a sudden, this new rush of creative energy, and you're going to, and like inspiration is going to pop into your head. This is a very dangerous moment, because in this moment, you're going to want to go right back into, let's do more things. I have all this space in my schedule. Now I can see where I can plug in this activity, and I can do that thing and that thing and that thing. And ironically, get ready to go right back into the same burnout problem that you just removed yourself from. What is so imperative at this moment in, let's call it this habit development space, is first just getting used to going back to these basic habits. Because what people are forgetting at this moment when you have all that space is you didn't do the basics consistently all together. That's where your foundation was starting to crumble. And when you would go to do one thing, you were just too tired, you didn't have enough sleep, you just, whatever it was, there'd turn into this snowball effect of failure, whether it was feeling physical aches on your body, bloating, like I said before, the brain fog, just random aches and pains, maybe perhaps putting on a little bit of weight, starting to self-soothe with food and alcohol, numbing out, maybe some more distractions on your phone. You just started filling up your life with a lot of empty, like the more existential empty calories of things that were not connecting you with quality time to the work that is meaningful and inspirational, the people that matter the most, and to the practices that actually nurture your health and well-being. So again, this space is super important because this is about you getting back on track with being consistent with all of those things. And we forget how much we had fallen off. So by adding more stuff, you're going to go right back into the same problem and rekindle this whole crash diet lifestyle, and the burnout cycle will continue. So the way I like to think about it is almost like you do that spring cleaning, you look into your closet, all of a sudden the first thing you do is you take out all the old things, you're going to get ready to go put that at at like the donation bin or something like that, or you're going to give it away to a charitable cause, or you sell it on, name your store, your kind of marketplace, whatever. Your first inclination right after that is like, I got all this space in my closet, let's go buy some more things. And you never wear all these things that you forgot to wear, that were like, I have all these great items in my closet. How about I get used to putting those things together? The underlying thing to all of this is people struggle with having space, with sitting still. And this deeper concept of mindfulness is more about sitting in the discomfort of contemplation and introspection. Most people are not actually aware of what's going on. They don't have a process of becoming aware of what's going on. So they'll rush from one thing to the next. They'll be late from one thing to the next because everything starts to blend and overlap. and they make mistakes because they bleed their energy from one thing to the next, whether it's positive energy or negative energy. They both don't integrate into your life in a healthy and meaningful way. So the only habit we're really talking about here today is about managing your time to create a habit of making space to absorb stress or to transition from one thing in your life to the next. I think a great example here would be how many I have a lot of clients who's like this. They get home from a rough day at work. They can hear their wife yelling at the kids inside, and they're like, oh, dear God, here I go. And they're already charged from their day. They walk inside, and then it turns into more turmoil because they haven't grounded themselves to be able to navigate that space. Instead, if people have a plan and have created more space to absorb the transition from one element of their life into the next, they don't barf that unnecessary energy from one place to the next, whether it was from going from one client to another client, or from your client to your home life, or from your home life back into your work life or into your self-care. Those energies are going to bleed in and not really give the space and time that you need in the specific activities, the specific habits that are consistently building your foundation of your life, if you don't create the space to become aware of yourself. It seems really boring, but the reason we avoid it is because we're afraid of what's going to come up. Because the real question that's going to come up is, oh my God, what am I doing? Am I in alignment with the things I care about? Maybe I'm going to question the things like meaning of life and all the other scary things that I might not be doing that I'm supposed to be doing with my life. Whatever that is, that's what comes up in the space. That's the initial thing. But the beautiful thing that comes after this practice is that you start to love the space because you start to see yourself show up more authentically in all aspects of your life. You can make more meaningful decisions with a stillness and a calmness within yourself. And more importantly, you actually start to enjoy your time by yourself even more. So it's my long way of saying, hey, what's from the show? I'm a big fan of Ted Lasso. And there's that moment when he sits down with the therapist. And it's the first thing she says is like, the truth will set you free, but first it's going to piss you off. That might be what happens here. It's this kind of paradox of emotions that might show up here. But that's the way I look at solving this burnout problem from a time management and then a development of the habit of creating space for yourself.
Oh my goodness, Caleb, that was absolutely brilliant. I don't think that's boring at all, because what you're talking about is getting really present to what you want, doing less so that you have time to really be. And I think that we are more human doings than human beings, and being is really where the joy is, when we can handle being with it. So I think that's just really so exciting. So the question I have is, you talked about the fact that when people kind of work out what the minimum is they need to do in order to function in those particular three areas and do a good job, they discover they've got all this time and space. When the temptation is then to fill it up with more stuff, is there a strategy that they can implement that when they notice they're doing it, refocus? I mean, is there something, a kind of pattern interrupt? Do you have something that you say to your clients?
Yeah, one of the most important things is if you're feeling that anxiety coming on, just come back to making space. And often what I find there is that you're operating from a place of internal scarcity. So this habit I call instant confidence. Right? If you're not feeling confident, you feel scarce. But internally, if we feel abundant, we're going to give ourselves better permission to sit in that space of self-love, not a space of self-loathing. So I call this practice instant confidence. Essentially, we're creating a mindful moment. And it's simple. It's a minute long at most, or it might even be a few seconds long, depending on what you feel confident giving yourself for time. And the practice is super simple. Gratitude. I call it AMGAP, as much gratitude as possible. That's from my fitness background, where we do AMRAP, so as many rounds or reps as possible. Mine is AMGAP. In 1 minute, you're going to list off as many things as possible that you're grateful for. It could be, well, the sky is blue, or it's raining. I mean, hell, maybe some people love the rain. You have a beautiful family, you have air in your lungs, you were able to wake up today, name your thing. And what's powerful about gratitude, I feel like it's like the ultimate, I don't want to call it like what's the panacea or something like that. It's not necessarily that, but it's a very grounding energy. And when you feel scarce, you don't feel like you have anything to give, to be of service. So people go rush to try to acquire something to fill that void. When you do this list of gratitude, all of a sudden you've gone from a place of scarcity to not only do I have something to give, I have an abundance to give. So that allows you to slow down. And then from there, with that state of abundance, you say, what's one thing I'm going to focus on to make this next endeavor a positive experience? So you're getting a grounding energy and an intention all in one very short practice. And I like to make it as short as possible to just have that pattern interrupt, as you had mentioned, so that you don't feel like you don't have to write a War and Peace novel to be like, okay, now I feel solid again. Like that's people aren't going to do the damn thing. You need a quick hack. That's where gratitude really becomes a very powerful tool when you're feeling that like for me, my fingers start to tingle. I feel this rush. My jaw starts to clench up. Everybody's going to have their signs and symptoms of anxiety or overwhelmed they're feeling. That's something you can drop in when you feel it coming on. It's almost like a quick stopgap to get you reminded about like, oh, this is just a moment in time. Let me gather myself and get back on track.
Yes, I think that's excellent. I mean, I have a practice of being grateful every single morning. I fit that into my morning routine. And even if sometimes it's a case of getting out of bed and the first footstep, you say thank you, and then the next footstep, thank you. You just thank yourself until you get to the kettle, whatever your routine is. It really makes a difference. And it's proven that people who are grateful for what they have get more things to be grateful for. So I love that. So what you're saying in essence is, if you notice you don't feel good, you feel anxious, you feel out of sorts, when you notice that you feel like that, then you focus on what is it that I love, and some days are harder than other days, aren't they? And some days it might not feel like you have much to be grateful for, but as long as you are breathing, you got something to be grateful for. So Caleb, thank you so much. I'm going to have to re-listen to this call. Absolutely brilliant. And for those of you that really want to check Caleb out, check down below this video. You'll see his links there. Mine will be there as well. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, check out our websites, and do move over to Spotify and check out Naked Sunday, Caleb's podcast. So thank you, Caleb, so much.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
For watching.